I was gonna say something and then I'm not bother because yeah. Anyways, welcome to another video. I'm trying to be short in this video as well. Um, yes, I'm a unrepentant yapper before the Lord, right? But sometimes he's like, wrap it up, Tashika. Like, yeah. All right. So this is a reflection on the my own experience being on a journey of faith with the Lord, but also he tied it into something that he wants me to say. Um, I got it like a really beautiful Father's Day message, right? I mean, wake up to the things after that Father's Day. I ain't gonna lie to you, but it's not today. Some other put on, but this was heavy. This was heavily a part of it, and honestly, God is just that loving and caring. The the preface of this is last night I was thinking about it, and I was like, when I look at the different, I was looking at what about God being the creator and what about God being the one true God, don't forget, right? And what I found was a part of it is that false gods exist. That's the truth. God even refers to them as false gods because there's only one true God. So every other God attempt is going to be a false attempt, right? But the I think what it came down to was one of the reasons these false gods, and obviously these are fallen angels and their abominable offspring that have taken over these false religions, what they sell to their followers, their priests and prophets and everybody, and that we buy into because of the flesh in us, is that it is hard, right? It's pride, but it's hard for us to understand that there is a God that can do something for us that we can't do for ourselves and that we can't repay, and that's what Jesus Christ did. Okay? Now, if we're busy making ourselves false gods and we're busy creating false gods, we're going to have a problem with that. It takes a lot of humility, right? The opposite of pride. Actually, yeah, one off. But it takes a certain level of humility to understand and accept that, much less believe in the God, the one true God, to do that. So that's a preface for this. Um, when I came back to the Lord, because remember, I was did things say, we just come to the Lord first and foremost, forget that I was in covenant with the Lord before and had actually walked away from Him. He didn't walk away from me, thankfully. So I came back to Him, and the setup for this was before He had me like walk away from a lot of things. He literally brought me to Exodus. I will know the story of Exodus. But during that time, it was like a breath of fresh breath of fresh air for my soul. His word was like a breath of fresh air for my soul. So I was just in His word, fasting, feasting on the word, changing my diet, worshiping, doing all of these things, right? Where was I in for a time, and I still am. So, anyways, he had me in Exodus, walked me through the certain key points of the story, but then he wanted me to look at the story like through the lens of my life. Where was my Egypt? Where was my promised land? What he needed to call me away from and why, the impacts of Egypt, etc., etc. So the point of this video, and I feel like 5 minutes in, I'll probably give myself 5 to 7 more minutes because I really want to be short. He kept putting rest on my soul, like the word rest. When I came back to him, like 2023, when I started fasting in 2024, that was one of the recurring words, rest. Obviously, rest is very different from sleep. This at that time, this was a Tashika that used sleep as an escape, that used sleep to just dissociate and tune out. That did not mean I was resting. I was not resting. My soul was dead ass tired, same way. Right? Anyways, so he kept putting that on my soul, and I looked at it from so many different angles. From the fact that in Genesis, he created like for 6 days and then he rested the seventh day. And I'm like, your God, You spoke. And I'm like, that tired you out. What do you mean you rest? He's like, I'm leading by example. Anyways, he created man on the sixth day, and then he rested on the seventh day. So it means that man's first day with him was a day of rest, meaning God designed rest for man before we even worked. And what was so crazy, when he was giving me that revelation, like months later, I was listening to one of my favorite, pastors or teachers, more like a teacher, on this, on my journey or throughout my journey, and they literally confirmed the same thing and broke it down so articulately. I was like, love it. And like they continuously preach about rest, basically witnessing to some of the things that God was saying to me personally, right? Just in my own mind, in my journal, and stuff like that. So I was like, you resting, where you rest from? It exerted you to say, let there be, right? And he was like, I was just setting the standard. And so I'm leading by example. So if I can do it, you can do it too. So the first day of man's existence is rest. That's God's design. And he made it a commandment. Now, moving forward, rest is also in the new covenant. Jesus literally says it in Matthew, come to me all who are weary and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest for your soul. This is a new covenant. He mentions the Sabbath in the new covenant as well. Multiple times the Sabbath is mentioned in the new covenant. Even extended past a day, like the Sabbath should be a lifestyle, right? So rest is in the new covenant. And let me just quickly say, for Christians, if we are not resting, we're actually sinning. It is a sin to not rest because God commanded us to rest. Take 24 hours, don't do any sort of work per se, just seek God and rest in God. If we're not, it's a sin, like it's quite literally a sin. We just need to accept the truth, right? But back to story in Exodus. So he had me look at where my Egypt was and stuff like that. One of the things that stood out to me in Pharaoh's story, or Moses' story, first he tried to kill them. I believe he tried to kill them first, and then when he couldn't get to kill them, and they kept multiplying and all of that stuff, he started to like harshly oppress them, like make them slaves in the land. So I saw all of that, and the Lord was like, you need to rest, you need to rest. Obviously, he was talking about rest for my soul, that you can only get through Jesus Christ. Sorry, there's no other way you can get it. He literally said, it come to me and I'll give you rest for your soul. You can't get it no other way, right? And it was something that I struggled with to an extent. I still do, and the Lord, his mercies endure. I'm trying, really I try, because it is something so engraved in us culturally. I struggled so hard with the concept of rest that even when the Lord was saying, okay, I just need to step away from everything for a hot minute, I couldn't believe that he was actually calling me to rest my soul. Because in my mind, I'm like, Lord, how am I going to take care of myself? We'll never eat, we'll never sleep, we'll never... I kept thinking about these things, and of course, again, I made myself before this a false God. So I was like, I'm in charge of my life and I sustain myself. I do not. God sustains me, okay? He might ask me to participate from time to time, but he sustains me. But the point is, because I was used to functioning in that, I didn't see, I felt like his promise of rest was not for this lifetime. It was for, when we go back to Eden, right? After Judgment Day. I found it such a hard concept to realize, to believe that he actually wanted me to rest in this spiritual economy. Like, you serious? Where? How? When? Who? I was okay with a why. My soul was so tired it ain't even funny. My soul wasn't even all the way there and it was tired. So he knew this. And he cared enough to do this. There's no other false God that cares enough to do that. Every false god, in other words, demons and fallen angels, right? Every false altar, every demonic altar you go to, every false god you go to, they want you to continue to work. You have to work to get what you want, and then they, tie you into a contract, so you have to keep working. That's not of God. Rest is actually wealth. Rest is like, it's a believer's inheritance. Well, first of all, it's a creator. Once God created you, it's your inheritance, right? And even more so if you're in covenant with the Lord. So yeah, I find it so very interesting that when the enemy can't kill us sometimes, he just tries to exhaust us. And one of the reasons it was such a struggle for me, other than the fact that I made myself into a false god, is that I grew up with a cultural ideology that if I'm not working, I don't deserve to rest. That if I don't work first, I don't deserve to rest. The Yankees, I was working my ass off to the bone, still wasn't getting any rest. Any real rest for my soul. I really wasn't. So the whole thing was a scam. The whole thing was a scam. There, my body was breaking down, like so many things were happening. I couldn't, like everything was breaking down. When I finally got the faith and the courage to walk away from everything God was telling me to walk away from, I felt a relief in my soul, even though I never know where the hell is gonna happen after that. But the relief in my soul was so, it was like literally when I walked away from a lot of things, and that confirmed to me that all of these things that I was holding on to and working myself and tearing myself off for, they weren't feeding my soul. Like sometimes that's how you know you're in the enemy system. You're working, 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 working. It seems to be working, but there's a part of you that's tired and weary. There's nothing God is going to give you to work at or to do that's going to wear out your soul. Take it from me. And God had to sit my ass down, because I used to pride myself in being, super productive. I work, then I leave work, and I go, I write, I do all of these things. And the truth is, not all of these things were, producing the results that I wanted. I wasn't consistent either, because I wasn't rested. I was weary. So it's like everything I kept trying to produce from a weary place. I call it high functioning exhaustion, to be quite honest with you. And so yeah, I felt it because when I look at the same way it was a struggle for me as a woman, as a black woman in Jamaica, it's like, oh, we pride ourselves on our work ethic and all of these things. To an extent, some of this is demonic. God does not wish for any of his children to be grinding themselves into the ground, especially when he commands us to rest. No, he does not. And I say even Christians too. So if as you're in covenant with the Lord, or you're disobeying this commandment, where there's no 24-hour period where you don't do any sort of work, like you don't make a deal with the Lord for the day to just stay in him, you and your household, that's a sin. It is a sin. You're breaking his commandment. He said to keep his Sabbath, right? But what I wanted to close and say is that back to the Egypt thing. So remember, Pharaoh could not kill them. He tried. And he killed a few. Because when Moses was born, like a few of them died. Like a good amount of them died. And then even after that, he kept viciously oppressing them. So if he can't actually kill you, he will just try to tire you out. If you're tired, you won't have strength to have faith to seek the Lord like me. That was my story. Whenever I was so tired, I had zero capacity. Everything I made decisions, I had desires, I made plans for my life and everything from a place of exhaustion, not from a place of rest, not from a place of truly resting in the Lord, right? So when I looked at it, it's like we have this culture where we have to grind and we have to hustle and we have to dig it and we have to do these things. We're being disobedient to God. Whether we believe in God or not, that's not God's portion for us, right? And I feel like that's why he wanted me to say it, like talk about this first, because then I'm gonna talk to his sons for Father's Day. But that's also something that his sons need. Men need to rest. if I struggle so much as a woman to rest in this day and age, as a millennial woman who was born and raised in Jamaica, right? First of all, I had to even get over childhood trauma where rest was concerned because, you know, there were just these memories associated with just not doing anything. Like I grew up in the country, so chores for days. Yeah, chores for days, and I do my chores, but then I'd still be called lazy. These were like literally psychological tools of abuse. So when the Lord was calling me to rest, I was resisting it because I was like, yeah, try say me lazy, I try say me work late, like, and so I kept. So yeah, wrapping up. So I was saying that I can just imagine in my culture, well, in my experience as a woman, if I struggle this much to to receive the Lord's rest, I can just imagine the oppression on his sons. That oh, you can't rest. A man doesn't rest. A man doesn't take. Men need rest. The true rest is in Jesus Christ. I did not say sleep. I did not say you need to feel mellow. I said rest for your soul. Only Jesus Christ can do that. It doesn't matter what it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter. Only Jesus can give you that, and you deserve it. And Jesus is the only one that says you don't need to work to deserve it. He literally says, "How much your burdens on everything, and you will get it." Right? So, especially even as like black people, like we wear this granted like a badge of honor. Like I had to be deprogrammed from that. That's not biblical. That is not scriptural at all. It is not. Right? So yeah, that's what I wanted to say real quick about rest. It kind of sounded probably all over the place because I wanted to get like a few things in one, but the bottom line is grinding unbiblical. Grinding unbiblical. I would dare say it is a strategy of the enemy to keep you exhausted. Because the thing is that this is no longer Eden. It's not. So if we needed rest in Eden, we definitely need it even more after the fall to restore our strength. Again, especially as men who are the foundations of societies, the foundations of families, who are the protectors and the providers on every level. If I'm Satan, I keep y'all exhausted too. Like I would. Right? The truth. I'm just saying it as it is. So probably this can be called like a pre-Father's Day message, but or like a setup for the Father's Day message. But the bottom line is that we were all created by a creator who desires the best things for us, even amidst it is so ghetto down here. It is so ghetto down here in this post-fall civilization. It's so ghetto, so ghetto. And I mean the mindset. But still, look at how gangster God is. God is like, I'm still going to have my way, despite the fact that y'all were disobedient. It's gonna take a lot more ringing on the hand, leading on by the ears in my case. But my standards are still going to be observed. Like God does everything for our good. He actually wanted us to have rest. It's not something that we have to earn. Right? So I had to unlearn that. And so yeah, God wants his children to have rest for their souls. If you were like me before I came back to the Lord, of course I knew that in my soul I was weary. It's just that everything I tried to do to relieve my soul or to revive my soul, it didn't work. And if it worked, it was short-lived. And after I came down off the high, I felt even worse, right? It was nothing is gonna feel it but Jesus Christ. Nothing. So yeah, I'm just going to leave that video there for now. Take from it what you will, whether you are a believer in Christ or not, whether you are male or female or not, right? And again, this is something that we, not just as Jamaicans, but like as Africans overall, we sort of like take pride in that work ethic that we call the grinding or the hustling culture. Is unbiblical. I dare say it is satanic, and we're literally playing by his rules. So we're reaping his rewards, which is continuous exhaustion, and it keeps us weak. If I can't kill you as your enemy, I'll try to find a way to keep you weak, because then I can overpower you. I'm not approved to kill you, but I'm approved to enslave you. And I think exhaustion is one of those ways, right? But anyways, I'm leaving it on a high note. We serve a God who wants us rested. Yes, that was a bike. We serve a God who wants us rested, and that rest is through Jesus Christ. And yes, you can have that rest in this life. So I'm gonna leave it there for